Hey everyone, and welcome. So, have you ever been telling a story in Portuguese, talking about what you did yesterday, and you just get stuck? You're definitely not alone. Today, we are going to tackle the most common irregular verbs in the past tense. Let's get right into it and make these verbs feel like second nature.
So, we're talking about completed actions in the past. You know, the stuff you do every day. Think of this tense as the storyteller's best friend. It's exactly what you need to share what you did yesterday, last week, or even last year.
Okay, let's bring this right back to you. What did you do last night? Did you watch a movie, make some dinner, see your friends? Well, the verbs you need to answer that very question are exactly what we're going to cover today. Check this out. In this super common everyday exchange, two of the most important verbs are irregular. Fizeste comes from fazer, which means to do or make, and vi comes from ver, to see. See what I mean? These guys are absolutely everywhere.
Now, the official fancy name for this is the Pretérito Perfeito Simples, or PPS. I know, it sounds a little intimidating, right? But don't let the name fool you. It's really just your go-to storytelling tense, the key to unlocking all those past events.
We call these verbs irregular, but honestly, I want you to think of them as superstars, or power verbs. Why? Well, because they're the verbs you're going to use all the time. They're so old and so fundamental to the language that they've kind of held on to their own unique forms. Mastering them is a massive shortcut to sounding more natural.
And here they are, our 10 superstar verbs. From saying and doing to wanting and seeing, these are literally the building blocks of daily conversation. We're going to break them down group by group.
So how in the world do we learn them without just staring at a giant, scary conjugation chart for hours? The secret, and this is the best part, is to find the patterns. We're going to group these verbs into little logical families, which makes them so much easier to remember.
All right, let's start with our first pattern. Take a look at dizer, to say, and trazer, to bring. Notice how that Z in the original verb completely transforms. For dizer, it becomes a double S sound, disse. And for trazer, it becomes an X, which in Portuguese sounds like sh, trouxe. The cool thing is the endings are regular, so once you know that little stem change, you're golden. Next up are I verbs. Fazer, to do, becomes fiz, and querer, to want, becomes quis. Now what's really cool here is how similar their forms are. Notice how fiz and quis rhyme, and even fiz and quis for the he-she form. That is an awesome little memory aid.
Okay, you really got to pay close attention here because this one trips a lot of people up. Ver, to see, and vir, to come, are super easy to mix up. Eu vi means I saw, but add one little m, eu vim, and it means I came. That single letter changes everything. Same deal with ele viu, he saw, versus ele veio, he came. This is a perfect example of why those tiny details really matter. Our next group has some pretty unique stem changes. Saber, to know, becomes soube with that u sound. And dar, to give, becomes de for the I form. Now, they don't follow a super strict pattern like the others, but we group them together because they both have this really dramatic vowel shift that's important to spot.
And our last pattern is what I call the U-stem verbs. Por, to put, becomes pus, and poder, to be able to, becomes pude. You hear that? That strong U sound in the past tense stem for both of them. That little sound clue is a great way to link these two in your mind.
All right, enough with the tables and patterns, right? Let's see these verbs out in the wild. We're going to look at some real-life examples to see how they're actually used in everyday conversations. This is where it all clicks. The material for this whole explainer is just packed with great examples from daily life. These aren't some obscure textbook verbs you'll never hear. Nope, these are the words real people are using to talk about their day, every single day.
Here's a perfect one. Os meus vizinhos fizeram. Fizeram is the they form of fazer. See, it follows that fiz pattern we saw earlier. My neighbors, they made. Simple as that.
And how about this? Ela quis, she wanted. This is straight from our fiz and quis pattern, using the verb querer. It's a simple, powerful sentence built all around one of our key irregular superstars.
Hey, remember those lookalikes we just talked about? Here's verb in action. Nós vimos means we saw. You can totally picture this happening, and now you've got the grammar to actually describe it yourself.
This is a super useful phrase. Anytime you need to explain why you couldn't do something, you use poder in the past tense. Eu não pude, I couldn't. This follows that U stem pattern we learned. So practical.
And one last one, bringing it all full circle from our first pattern. Eles trouxeron means they brought. This is from the verb trazer, which we grouped with dizer. It's a perfect way to talk about someone bringing something to a party or a get-together.
So, there you have it. We've broken down the 10 most common, most important irregular verbs. I want you to think of this as your personal past tense toolkit, ready for you to start telling all your stories in Portuguese. Look, if you remember just one thing from all this, please let it be this. Don't try to memorize 100 different verb forms. That's a recipe for disaster. Instead, just focus on these small groups, the patterns, and the lookalikes. That is the real secret to mastering this.
Okay, now it's your turn to put this into practice. What did you do last weekend? Try using one of our superstar verbs, fazer, ver, poder, querer, and build your own sentence. That's how you really make this knowledge stick. Thanks for tuning in.